Okay, folks, just thought I'd share an update here. You know, I kept having problems with the shifter in this car. It would hang up, it would get bound up in reverse. It just didn't feel like it was shifting right. Done a lot of 4-speeds, GM, Fords, Chryslers. I've never had a problem, but each one of those cars had the original setup. So when we got this car, we converted it to a 4-speed. The customer wanted to go to a 4-speed, and he sourced all the parts. And I got to looking, and I had my good friend Jamie from Dead Dodge Garage. I reached out to him, and Jamie was kind enough to actually call me. And we visited for about 30 minutes discussing this issue with the interlock and the shifting. And Jamie made mention, he said, "Are you sure you have the right levers on that car? And do you have the right rods?" Well, I made the assumption that we did. Customer also, Kevin, you know, he found and spent a lot of money on a set of shift rods and the lever kit, or from a known force. So the shifter and the shift rods and the levers all came from a 4-speed Dart. Now, remember, it came from a 4-speed Dart. We got to looking, and we could not get the first second rod when you put the pin in through to adjust the shifter. We could just never. We ran out of adjustment on that rod. So we started looking at the shop manual, and one little detail stood out to me. And I noticed on another shift rod, one little detail stood out to me. And I noticed that the slot on the shift lever was at an angle, like almost a 45-degree angle, where it goes to the shifter, or it goes to the transmission, excuse me. Our shift rod levers, the slots are straight up. So I thought, something's not right here. So I found another set of 4-speed shift rods and levers, a kit from PG Classics. I use PG Classics a lot. They're a little more expensive, but you get nice stuff from PG Classics, or at least I have. So let me show you what we found. Obviously the gold ones are the 4-speed kit from PG Classics, and these are what we had that Kevin had found with the shifter, which, hey, we made the assumption he wouldn't know, I wouldn't know any different. But look at the differences here. So this is our reverse right here. Look at the levers. Now, I don't know, again, I don't know if this is right. I don't know if this is going to fix our problem, but there is a drastic difference. Look at the slots on the shift levers, how they're at an angle. Now, this is our second shift rod. This was the first key that I thought, uh-oh, something's not right. Look at the differences in the shift levers. You see the slot? Now, look at this. See how I have much more thread on this one than I do this one? This kept bottoming out, and it wouldn't, so I couldn't adjust my shifter properly. There's also a difference, I believe, in maybe the length. I'm not sure. Maybe they're the same. Maybe the rods are the same here. I can't tell. But see, there's a difference where the dog leg breaks. This is straight, and here's the dog leg here, and here's the dog leg here. Obviously, a difference in the rods and obviously the levers. Now, reverse. Remember all the problems I was having with the interlock? Look at the difference. I have an angle on this one, and it's got a different shape. There's a dog leg where this breaks off to the right. This one goes straight out. We got a massive difference here. So we're about to install this new shift lever, shift rod kit, and we're going to see if this resolves our problem. But if it does, now I will also say I ran this by Kevin and showed him the differences, and Kevin did say, hey, you know what? That shifter and those rods, these rods here, came out of a factory 440 69 Dart GTS. So these may be some really rare, hard to find rods, but there is a big difference. I'm assuming the big block, maybe it has, there are some differences in the forks up front. I'm not sure, I don't know, but I see a huge difference here. This may be why we were getting, I mean, I can see why it would cause our problems. I kept blaming the shifter because I assumed that these were right. So we're about to find out these things work. What a world of difference. It's amazing what happens when you put the right parts on. So we now have first, second, third, fourth, and it feels so good. It feels so good. And there's our reverse lockout. No more hanging up. Absolutely no more hanging up. Those rods, now I'm about to show you what we did. We did have to use the same reverse rod mechanism, shift rod on this, because the one that came with the PG Classics kit, for whatever reason, was too long. So I'm not sure, it may be a culmination of maybe the shifter was designed for because it came out of a big block 4-speed, from what I understand, a factory 69 440 car, but it shifts. It's like a new car. First, second, third, fourth. Oh, golly, I can't wait. This thing's gonna be awesome to drive. Golly. Let me show you what it looks like under the transmission, folks. All right, here's our direct drive. Obviously, this was a much different setup. The rod's shaped much differently, as is the lever was different. It was longer, and our first to second lever was different. It had a slot where it was on the slot, it was at an angle, and the rod was also different. It shifts so good now. Now also, the only part we didn't use out of PG Classics kit was this. We went ahead and this works like butter now. The interlock system is absolutely perfect now. Now I can tell you, this is what Kevin bought with the kit, or excuse me, from that car. We went ahead and stayed with the direct drive, or excuse me, the reverse lever and rod assembly. And you can come over here, if you come over and look at what came with PG Classics, it is probably right. Here's what I'm thinking. This might very well be for just a regular 69 pre-70s, what I'm thinking, but it has a bushing because it has a larger hole, I guess, for the rod, and it's longer, and it's got a slot. Ours, this is an extra one here we found, but it's identical to one's on there. So there may be a mix match of 69 and 70 on the levers. I'm not sure. Obviously, this rod was way too long. Come over here and look. I'll just try to. There's no way this rod was gonna. You see how it's shaped? It's, even if it went like this, it was just not going to, with the new lever, it was not going to work. It just wouldn't. And I believe we even tried it here, and it was hitting with the other lever. It was hitting the bottom of the transmission cross member. So I can tell you now. I mean, even Trish here said it's like a new car. Yeah, it shifts nice. So I hope anybody that's doing a 4-speed conversion on an A-body Mopar, a 1970, I learned some things. I didn't realize that maybe the big block stuff is different. I guess I can see why, but I've never done one. So now I have. But Jamie at Dead Dodge Garage, you know, thank you, buddy, for kind of putting that bug in my ear. It definitely, you were right. The levers were not correct, and the shift rods were not correct. So we're gonna get back to shoring up some wires on this thing, make sure not on exhaust, and we got a trunk latch to put in. But this thing's getting buttoned up. Go back to Texas here pretty quick. Go back to Kevin, and he can finish putting the fenders and the grill and all. It's got all brand new parts. This car is going to be one hell of a nice car. I've already had friends that really were interested in buying this car from him, or they at least asked. But yeah, you figure a full resto on this thing, rotisserie style restoration on a 70 Dart. It's a real 340 car, but it has been converted to a factory 4-speed. So it was an automatic car, but what a great car. I sure wish I would have had the opportunity to drive this thing around with that little 416 stroker. So anyway, hope you guys got something out of this. I learned something out of this. Takes a lot of basically research to make sure you got the right parts. So hope everybody has a good day. Thanks for watching, everybody. Well, one thing down, figured out, and then the next problem comes right up. So we got all our shift rods on, everything was doing great, but yet we noticed we didn't have hardly any clutch pedal, or just not enough. And the clutch resistance was very minimal. Many times the clutch would just stick down at the bottom of the pedal. Then when it's in, basically when the engine is not running, it shifts like butter. It's perfect. But when I fired it up, just want to go through the gears, I had a hard time getting it to go into the gears, and I didn't have the proper clutch pedal. So we bought a kit from Brewers. All that was correct for a small block Mopar, 1970. All of this was correct. However, I started noticing as I had Trish getting into the car and pushing in the clutch pedal with me down here, the first thing I looked at was I noticed that our adjustment rod is off at an angle over here. And then when I would have her push in the clutch, no matter how tight I got this thing would hardly go in. It would hardly push the clutch in at all. As I watched as she was pushing it in, and I noticed this at an angle, the mechanical leverage was barely pushing in the forks from the throwout bearing. So I did my research on this clutch fork, and it didn't. I thought something's not right, because this is not supposed to be at an angle, I don't believe. Sure enough, what we have is a B body, E body, or big block A body shift fork. The small block shift fork, from my research, looking at online, we need the 12.5 inch clutch fork. The length needs to be 12.5 inches. I believe that is why we've lost our mechanical advantage to pushing in the clutch properly, to engage the clutch properly, because this doesn't seem right. And I've run out. I can tighten this up and start running out of adjustment, and it's not right. So with that being said, now we get to pull the transmission back and swap clutch forks. So I never thought to measure that. I didn't know there were different lengths, but yes, there are different lengths. So here we go. It's looks like you go one step forward and so yeah, going one step forward and 10 steps back. So somebody up here, and I think not too far from us, may have the right clutch rod. We're going to see, but very disappointing. And I did notice that also my return spring was at an angle as well. And I kind of dismissed it. I thought, yeah, maybe something's not right. And this is a different spring. The other spring I have over there. So it's starting to make sense now. So now that all this is resolved, all the shift rods and the levers are right, now we're going to have to pull the transmission back and go ahead and put the right shift rod, clutch fork in. So that's where we're at, folks. I'll update everybody once we get the new clutch fork.